Hi, I'm Lois. I'm the founder of Restored Eden Physiotherapy. I've been asked if I could do some Pilates videos for 15 minutes every day by my clients because just out of whether they've had injury or whether they've had just pain which is caused by deconditioning, I've recommended that they do some Pilates, but they don't have time. They don't have time to go to a class, and they also don't have 1 hour every day to do Pilates, but nevertheless they can see the benefits of doing Pilates. So I've decided to start doing 15 minutes of Pilates every day, and I'm going to share some knowledge about physiotherapy, and also I'm a Christian, so I'm just going to share whatever God is telling me that day. And I hope that you will be blessed by it and just can benefit with your body and also with your mind and your spiritual walk with God. If you're not a Christian, then you can still benefit from it because we're going to be hitting on every kind of topic. So today we're going to do some stretching. So first of all, we're going to stretch our hamstrings. So taking our legs apart, we're going to just stretch down with 2 hands towards one knee. Ideally, you want to put your head on your knee and then stretch to the other side. And then stretch in the middle. If you can't get your head on the floor, that's okay. You just want to go as far as you can. And then go to the other side again. So if you can't reach that far, then by doing this stretch, then you will find that gradually, even within the 15 minutes that we're doing this, you'll get further and further because you're going to stretch all the muscles in your legs, hips and back. So this can be limited by range of movement in your back, but also range of movement in your hamstrings, also just range of movement in all of the muscles. So we're just going to stretch to one leg, then the other leg, then in the middle. But then we'll stretch our groin. So taking our knees apart. So we can use, right now I'm using my muscles to just push down as far as I can towards the ground. Now I'm going to use my elbows and then push my legs down. Those 2 ways of stretching our groin are both beneficial because they stretch the muscles in different ways. And then we're going to put one leg out in front and then cradle our legs. So this looks a bit weird. It's a little bit like what I did when I was younger, and I used to try and see if I could suck my toes. Well, I'm not recommending you do that, but it is actually a really, really effective way to stretch your gluteus medius, minimus and maximus. And it stretches your piriformis muscle. So your piriformis muscle is a strip at the back of your bottom, which actually goes over the top of the sciatic nerve. So if you get pain in your bottom, it could be because you've got a tight piriformis muscle. There's lots of ways to stretch your piriformis muscle. This is not a normal standard exercise, but I really like it. So that's why I'm showing it to you. So this is a standard piriformis muscle stretch is where you go like this. So you've got one leg bent and one leg crossing over the bent leg, and then you're going to push your knee away from you and pull your foot towards you. You can use your hands to help you with this. And then we're going to swap legs. So when you've been sleeping all night, then you get stiff, and the degree of how stiff you get depends on how stiff you are generally. So now we're going to go back to the hamstring stretch, and you should find that however far you got before, you should get further now because you have stretched your legs in other ways. So now this should be easier. And then go to the other leg. and then in the middle. Okay, and now we're going to stretch our neck. So we're going to do some circles. Our necks can get very stiff very quickly. Maybe if you sleep in an awkward position, or you've got your pillow in a funny position, or your partner puts you in a funny position, or like when I was breastfeeding, I've got 4 children, when I was breastfeeding, my neck would go in all sorts of weird positions just because I was so desperate to sleep. Then I would end up sleeping in some really weird position which could end up giving me a crooked neck. So when you have a daily like routine of stretching your neck, then you can make sure that all the muscles in your neck are fully stretched and fully mobile, and making sure that all the vertebrae in your neck are gliding on each other properly. So this is a really good routine to make sure that you don't get any stiffness in your neck. So taking your chin down to the floor, chin into your chest, using that over pressure. And then now we're going to go sideways. So we're stretching levator scapula, which is around here. And then the other way. And then up to the ceiling. Round to the side. So you want to be looking at the wall behind you, and then the other way. Okay, so now we're going to roll our shoulders and then forwards. So we don't need to think too much about how we're stretching or what we're doing. Really, any stretch that is challenging your body to go in a position that it hasn't gone in for a long time, or like overnight or whatever, is a good idea. So you can't really damage yourself by stretching unless you do something really weird, like just doing something like this. If it feels uncomfortable, it's probably just because you've got tight muscles, or you might have an injury which you need to see a physio about, or you might have like a weakness or a stiffness, or you could have arthritis, but stretching generally just helps everything to move further. If you imagine that you're just doing your daily activities and then you want to stretch up to get something off the shelf, then you want to that you're going to have to stretch in that situation. So you might as well just stretch when you're not in a controlled way. When we do stretches in a controlled way, then we're much less likely to injure ourselves when we're doing our daily activities, when we're under pressure. So we're just going to keep sitting down for today's exercises, and then another day we can do some standing up exercises. So we're just going to stretch over to one side, so we're doing side flexion, and then stretch over to the other side, and then we're going to take one leg over and then rotate so that we're looking at the wall behind us, and then the other leg. And now we're going to do a groin stretch. So we want to feel the muscles stretching down here. And then point the other way. So we're pointing our toes behind us, and then we're leaning on the leg that is bent in front. So this involves doing a back extension. Our toes are pointed behind us, our knees coming off the ground as far as we can, and we're facing our hips towards the wall in front of us. And then we're going to go round so that we're stretching into side flexion. Then we're going to do the rotation again. So the rotation of our lumbar spine, so we're looking at the wall behind us, really helps the vertebrae to glide one on another. Then we're going to take up one leg to the side and then stretch down to the leg in front. So you want two hands reaching forwards, because then that's going to involve our trunk stretching in both directions. And then we're going to take our other leg into hurdle stretch. So this leg is straight, this leg is 90 degrees to the side, and then our knee is 90 degrees and our ankle is 90 degrees. So just like as if we're going to jump over the hurdle, and we want to try and sit up. If you've got arthritis in your hip, you're going to really struggle to get this internal rotation of your hip, which is okay. You should still try to do this exercise. So in that case, you can lean over if you're really struggling, because this is, at least you're putting your hip into this position, and that will help to nourish the joint, but you don't need to stay there for too long. A really good thing to do when you're in this position is just start pulsing with your knee, so that you're getting that synovial fluid moving around the joint, and that really helps to nourish the joint and make sure that you're maintaining the most range of movement possible. And then we're going to lift up our knee and our foot in this position. So this is going to work the internal rotators of our hip, and just like as if we were jumping over a hurdle, we've just got that control of our hip, which means that if we need to get ourselves into a position like that in our daily activities, it's easy and we can activate our muscles easily. So now we're going to do the other leg. So stretching our groin again. So these adductor muscles, the muscles that draw the leg into the midline, we're stretching those out. And then pointing our toes behind us, keeping our knee up, pointing our hips forwards. We're going to stretch our hip flexors. Hip flexors can get stiff very easily when you sit down a lot. If you're always sat down, then these muscles are just going to shrink into a sitting down position, which will mean that when you're walking around, you're going to be in a bent over position. That's why a lot of elderly people who spend a lot of time sitting down will then bend, they look like they're bent over. That's because their hip flexors are tight, and also their back is very curved, and it's all basically because they've adopted a sitting position, which is understandable, because when you get to be an elderly person, you're tired and you don't have the energy to walk around, so then you sit down a lot. But if we want to stay young as long as possible, then we want to counteract that, and we want to try and go into an extended position. We want to do the opposite. We want to do the opposite of what gravity wants to do to us. We want to have the muscles in our back pulling us back into an upright position. We want our lower back to be able to go into extension. So we'll go through all of these exercises day by day, but today we're just going to concentrate on what we can do in our sitting down position. So stretching our hamstrings, and then going back into this hurdle stretch, pulsing in this position. So we're trying to sit up as high as we can, and this movement that we're doing, working our internal rotators, is going to help us towards really pumping that synovial fluid around our joint, and then lifting up our knee and our foot at the same time, but keeping 90 degrees between our straight leg and our bent leg. If you don't manage to keep the 90 degrees, then don't worry, just try the best that you can. Okay, so that is all for today.